Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Those in the back eating the tacos, I hope they are very good. And first off, it is a pleasure to be here. So if everyone can just get settled in, even those in the back who are eating, would appreciate if we can just keep the voices down a little bit. So super excited to be here, as I'd mentioned. As you can see on the top, we've got a really awesome panel today, empowering communities, harnessing new technology. And of course, before we go into all of that, just want everyone to do a very quick introduction on who they are, and then we're gonna get into the questions.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Terry. I'm representing Single Oak Investment today. However, today I want to talk about Boys and Girls Clubs of South Central Texas. I'm formerly in that life CEO of that organization. We were unique in that we also not only operated clubs, but we also operated a charter school. And I'm here to talk about our experience with Helium today.
And I'm Chris Truitt. Good afternoon. I'm the village manager for Biscayne Park, Florida, which is a small 3,000 member community located within Miami-Dade County.
I'm Boris Renski. I'm GM of Wireless at Nova Labs, which is the company behind the Helium mobile brand. And nowadays, most of my time I spend working with the community on optimizing mobile tokenomics, writing Helium improvement proposals, stuff like that.
Wonderful. And I'm just the host here, so I will not play main character energy, but my name is Dylan Haddam, and I work at Magic Link. For those who are not familiar, we are a wallet infrastructure company, and we essentially help create white-labeled wallets. So when we are onboarding new people into Web3, they get all the benefits of being able to hold onto assets without actually having to worry about downloading an app, seed phrases, etc. So again, really pumped to be here. And when we think about nonprofits and municipalities, a lot of us can think, are they a little bit behind on the technology? And what we're gonna chat about today is some maybe, but we've got two gentlemen here who are building these extremely interesting tool sets with Helium. And we really wanna dive into how we got here, and where we're really going. And so what I like to do on these panels is just to set the stage before we get into the nitty-gritty details. What we really want to understand is, how are both of you actually using this technology?
All right, you want to go first? All right. Well, one of the ways in which we're using it, I have to set the stage with the fact that serving the Boys and Girls Clubs of South Central Texas is a large rural community, and has very little access to a lot of things. And obviously, kids need access to do many things, to be a part, do their homework, just do a number of things to just kind of stay in touch. And a lot of what we do is we assume that everybody has that. And so I wanted to set the stage that that's the community in which I serve. And so how we use it on a daily basis is that we've been able to make sure that not only of our staff, has access by way of the Helium phones, and our students who we serve, not only in the after-school programs, but in the school programs, have access to. So we put a phone in everyone's hand. And so we created a program called Stronger Connections. And that Stronger Connections has allowed many of our students to continue to prosper. We also have the hotspots. And we've also begun to work with some of the local communities to put hotspots in those communities. Once again, I want to emphasize these are rural communities that we're serving, and a lot of kids didn't have it. And so now they have phones. And what that means for us is, on the bottom line, is that we were actually able to use these phones free. Obviously, with all that Helium allows us to do, it takes that off of our bottom line. And so that's a huge savings. Running a nonprofit, obviously, money's tight from time to time, and of course, making sure that all the students have it. And so we've been able to create this program called Stronger Connections, and it has really, really done a lot of wonderful things.
I should have gone first. I can't follow that. I'm just trying to keep a government running. So we are switching over from some of the standard cell carriers to all Helium. starting with all village employees, our entire police department, and our governing body as well. Our commission is switching over.
This is fascinating already. First off, I'm so excited to be on this panel and hosting it because I am so curious about all of these answers that I get to ask the questions to. And when we think about an industry, I personally believe that a lot of the times we're selling to ourselves and we're using a lot of this mumble jumble, and at the end of the day we actually need users. And so would again love to pass the mic back off to you two, and Boris, I will get to you in a little bit, and give us a sense of how did you actually get here, both personally and then professionally, bringing it to the nonprofit and the municipality?
Well, personally, I got here. Well, how I got to the nonprofit part was I was involved personally, and I was learning more and more about the space in terms of crypto, in terms of DeFi, and had a friend of mine challenge me and began to help me. And so the more I became familiar with what was going on, I began to look into deep-in projects, helium, all these great, wonderful things that were going on out there. And I said, look, why aren't we doing this in the workspace? And why can I take this, and how can this benefit the work in which I do? And so that's how I began to use it, to go back to the team and said, look, there's got this wonderful product here. We've got this, and as a nonprofit, we've got this $5,000 bill at the end of the month that could go away if we use this product. And so that's kind of how we began to kind of take a look at that.
I'm kind of the same thing. I'm a bit of a geek. I got into crypto, decentralized finance, the ethos of decentralized government as well, a few years ago. And moving into Biscayne Park in Florida, one of the things that I like to do is attack old problems with new solutions. Learning what I had about the Helium network just from the IoT side of things, and then with the launch of the Helium Mobile, I saw the opportunity to leverage some of this new technology to solve some of the old problems that we face.
Super fascinating. And so, Boris, when it comes to these two verticals, again, municipalities, nonprofits, to me, wouldn't necessarily be people that I would be trying to sell out of the gate. I would think there'd be more native people that I could potentially onboard. How do these organizations fit in the go-to-market, and do you want to continue expanding within this vertical, or do we think that this is an edge case right here?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not an edge case. I think one of the unique things that the Helium Mobile value proposition offers to folks like this is that anybody can be both a user of the mobile service and also a builder of the mobile service. And I myself personally come from like an open source software background. And when I started dealing with a little bit of a telecom stuff, maybe 5 years ago or so, it was very, on one hand, interesting and exciting, and at the same time surprising how alien that space is when compared to everything else in the software space. So I've had pretty strong technical background myself, but as I started learning stuff about cellular radios and packet cores and stuff like this, I was like, holy shit, this is a completely different world. And one of the visions that we had that ultimately translated to folks like this to be able to do what we're doing is, how do you simplify this alien technology of communications to allow almost anybody to become not just the consumer of this magic, but also active participant and a builder. So we have a lot of folks that are using the service that are just individuals, but to your point, one of the very important going forward targets for us is municipalities, universities, schools, places where there is a large contingent of people that can use the service, and at the same time, they themselves can deploy coverage, thereby making the service more cost effective and also participating in kind of just the excitement of the network building.
And so we hear a lot about benefits, and I've heard that a few times since being on the panel already, but Mark, would love to know the benefits. What was life like before helium, and what is it now with helium?
Well, when we really started pushing this was this primarily after COVID. And, what life was like, once again, is, you've had kids, all of the kids in which we serve, a lot of them did not have cell phones. A lot of them did not have connectivity, just basic connectivity. And so we're dealing with that. I mean, I know we're all walking around with phones and stuff in our hands, but there's still a world out there that still does not have it. And sometimes families have to choose, whether it's a cell phone or whether it's putting food on the table. And so what that's done is that we've been able to really put a phone and connectivity in every kid's hand. Additionally to that is been able to increase communication. And that's a huge, huge piece when you work in certain communities. Communication with students, with parents. It's not just a phone for the kid, it's a phone for the household perhaps. Mom, dad can call and say, hey, look, whatever's going on. So it's opened a lot of communication that did not exist. And yet it has extended a lot of opportunity for learning, not to mention, and for learning. I'll just go there.
I have such a smile on my face right now, and those who are on Twitter Spaces, they won't know that, just because this is refreshing. This is so refreshing. All day I'm having conversations about infrastructure, and it's who are we actually building this infrastructure for? And so hearing that story is really impactful, and I hope people who are listening to it now, when we're going out and we're selling these solutions, really having the end consumer in mind. And so thank you for sharing that. And Chris, I'd like to pass it off to you. Hearing that sounds very special, sounds like there are benefits, but crypto has a negative perception. Blockchain has a negative perception. Web3 makes no sense to most people. How did you educate the Biscayne municipality on what you actually wanted to implement, and how did you get over any fears or objections that you faced?
You're absolutely right. There are negative connotations out there, and even in the press today with everything with regulations. Hopefully we're done with that F word thing happening when we can move on past that. But most of the community has no idea what Helium Mobile is under the hood. They have no idea what a Solana wallet is. They don't understand any of the terms or technology that we use. So what I do is focus on what it does. So what Helium Mobile does for us is, number one, cut $20,000 off of our cell bill over the course of a year, so I can be a good steward of tax dollars. And the other thing it does is offer us, or gives us, the ability to create our own connectivity. So down where I am in Biscayne Park, we're going to get hit by a Category 5 hurricane at some point. I hope it's not while I'm there, but it is going to happen at some point. And when that happens, we are going to lose our cell towers. That's just a given. For us to be able to, as long as we have internet, spin up a hotspot and still provide that coverage so that my teams in the field can reach the police, public works, so that we can call up to Tallahassee or the feds or whoever we need to reach, or for those residents that have their own Helium phones to be able to reach village management. That's a huge thing. So focusing on those things rather than what goes on behind the scenes, I think, is what sold it. For those that are a little more tech savvy, tech involved, I can go into some of the additional benefits, such as the fact that we're earning mobile tokens as we go, such as the fact that that's going to help decrease our costs. Giving them the positive perception of what it does versus what it is, I think, helps.
And Boris, when it comes to Helium going out and selling this software and these services, where's the line as it relates to let's obfuscate all the technology and really just show the benefits versus, oh, actually there's some incentives that you can get to actually use our products?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there is, I think, the right answer to this, and then there's like a real answer to this. So
we're going to go with the real answer.
All right. So we always historically prioritized abstracting away as much of the technology and crypto aspects from everything that we do. And I think that this is what historically helium's been known for, is that even back in the day before the mobile network ever existed, it was sort of like a very easy way for people to dive into the crypto world to the point where you don't need to know anything about crypto. So when it comes to us actually focusing on what we deliver as a service and what we sell, obviously, first and foremost, it's the like superior economics, better coverage, and all of the things that the gentlemen here have shared. Now, having said that, one thing that we very often see is actually that the crypto component is what gets people thinking about us to begin with. So it's like, oh, and I think again this kind of relates to what the gentleman said, is like, oh, I was playing with the tokens, I was researching crypto, whatever, maybe trading meme coins, and then I stumbled upon this thing that is actually real and provides a real service. So as much as we abstract away all of the complexity of crypto, and as much as we focus on actual value creation, I don't want to completely discount the importance of us actually leveraging blockchain and being part of the crypto ecosystems and having a token as one of the important drivers that does differentiate us from the rest of the competition.
And Mark, when it comes to talking about the on-chain benefits and being explicit to your community that this is related to blockchain, it is related to cryptocurrency, how early does that come up in conversations?
It comes up really, really early, and I like what Truitt said about it. I mean, I think we have to stay focused on what it does, because if we talk about those kinds of things, unfortunately, it gets very complex for folks, and so, but it comes up very, very, very early, and we've been able to handle it, and we've got to. I mean, we had to dance a little bit, to be honest with you. But no doubt, it's obviously beneficial to our bottom line, and it has helped us. It has helped us to do what we're doing.
Yes. I'm sorry. No, you're absolutely right. It's. I think something like Helium Mobile is actually, or the service that they provide is not just communications, it's also an introduction to a lot of people into the world of cryptocurrency, into the world of blockchain. For example, for Biscayne Park, we're now solving problems such as how do we regulate the wallets? How do we convert those tokens into dollars and put them into a municipal checking account? How does all of this work? By focusing on what it does, getting people interested in it, then we're kind of ambassadors for the overall crypto community. This is what it does, and here's some of the really cool things that happen behind the scenes. Would you like to learn more?
And when it comes to actual people who are interested versus naysayers, where do we stand right now within your organizations? Are we trending to people who are saying, well, actually, there are some interesting use cases here, and we're actually getting to see the benefits? Are you converting those people, or are the people who were naysayers, are they still saying, sure, I'll use it, but I'm really not quite sold? And I'll pass it off to either of you gentlemen who want to answer that question.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot like what's happening in crypto. We still have to educate so many people, and because I work in education and with youth, we still have the issues of policy and what you can do and what you can't do, and so we're navigating those waters. I think we are converting. It's going to take time. It's like anything that we do. It's going to take time, but I think once again, if we focus on what it does and not the other stuff right off, I think we're able to educate. And I think we're moving, we're helping parents to understand, we're helping staff to understand, and we're helping more and more people who can make these decisions. I'm working with other nonprofits to go, okay, well, what is that you're doing? Can you kind of help us with that? What does that look like, So it does give me an opportunity to have a conversation.
I think our naysayers stop being naysayers when I point out that I don't have to go to the commission to request a tax increase. They can save the money.
Let that sink in for a little bit. Money talks. Sorry, I cut you off. I got
No,
excited.
that was all I had. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I was focusing on what it does. There are a lot of people that don't understand what happens behind the scenes. They don't necessarily need to or want to. But by showing them that we're not bringing in some sort of newfangled crypto toy thing, we're bringing in a communication system that's going to give us connectivity when nobody else has it, and it's going to save us money. That, I think, negates any of the arguments that they have about we don't like crypto, crypto has no place in government, decentralized finance is ridiculous, decentralized anything is ridiculous. By focusing on what we're getting from it, it kind of negates that argument.
And I'd love for you to hold on to the mic and answer this next question. I know there's some people in the room who we're selling to other infrastructure companies, and so we can totally geek out and not have to sort of break down exactly what this is doing from a user perspective. But when infrastructure companies are going directly to you, so for those in the room who are actually selling to end businesses and users, how do you want to be sold on, in this case, blockchain technology? People come to you, they're sending you DMs, they're emailing you. What is actually working? And probably more importantly is, what is not working?
Looking at this from the government perspective, the two things that we have to focus on are budget and services. If I have somebody come to me and say, look at this new shiny Solana phone that we can put on the Helium network and things are really cool, that's not going to mean anything to any of my people, my government people. But by coming in and saying, here's what we're representing, here's what we can do for you, we can present a new communication solution that is scalable, easily deployed, resilient, decentralized, and it's going to save you money. Those are the approaches that speak the most to government. I think for me personally, if you come to my door and say crypto, I'm going to say yes to whatever it is anyway. But focusing on that, I think, would help.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately helping the families in which we serve, helping children to be educated better. What we know is that children, children of all age, adults, we love phones. We've got kids that are coming to school that all have a cell phone now, kindergarten kids or whatever. So let's not resist it. Let's take it and let's see how we can work with it. And that's some of the challenges that we've been able to overcome. Let's put phones in hands and let's find all the great uses for them that benefit education. And by the way, I didn't say we've seen an increase in our scores. We've seen an increase in school attendance. So understanding all of those things can happen if we just kind of open up a little bit, and see it differently.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, listening to your guys speak, I think what we saw in our experience engaging with the types of organizations like the kinds that you represent, organizations, they are all over the spectrum in terms of their sort of crypto friendliness and maturity. And generally speaking, when it comes to like the bigger regulated organizations or municipalities or government affiliated organizations, they tend to be all the way on like, I don't want to hear crypto. Crypto is like a toxic word. And as such, to tie back the point that I made before, because we're confident that there is true value in what we're offering beyond just whatever tokens you might earn, we have various models with respect to how we engage these organizations. So in some instances, we're working with a couple of companies where they said, we do like great, the phone plans will earn tokens, and if I deploy coverage and I can deploy coverage in a city, I will earn tokens, but I can't touch the tokens. I don't want tokens. I don't know what to do with them. So there's ways of structuring the relationship to enable the benefits, which is the cost-effective phone plan and coverage in places where you don't have, and at the same time completely abstracting away any of the token stuff from an organization that is not quite ready to deal with it.
And I love that, and I think as we talk about structuring how we're going about working with these organizations, even from a financial perspective. That's massive. What do we actually do with these tokens, and adapting and figuring out the go-to-market and how we can work together with them instead of saying, this is what we've got, take it or leave it, is incredibly impactful. And I want to ask you guys right here in terms of, what have the biggest learnings been that you have found so far?
Well, the learning is I mean, we've been through a lot. I mean, actually dealing with some of the policy related, of course, navigating what you can do and what you can't, especially when you're working in the areas in which we're working in. Also, the learning is not just that part. It's all of the great things that we've been able. It's all of the great things that we've been able to get out of it, and the effects that it has on students and families on a daily basis. So I mean, there's a lot. I could go on and on about that and how it's changed a lot of lives. But and obviously the bottom line, as he said too, that's an expense for us operationally that we don't have to incur anymore, and so that's huge, and we've learned a lot from that.
That's great. And Chris, what about learnings on your end?
Government and crypto don't go together very well. Just trying to figure out how tokenomics fit into the picture. Just trying to figure out how well, let me back up. Everything that a government agency does is completely 100% public. It has to be completely transparent, and things like crypto, like wallets that reside on phones, finding an exchange to convert tokens into dollars and all that sort of stuff. There's nobody that we can look at. There's no existing policy that we can follow, so we're trying to create all of that ourselves. That's been our biggest challenge.
And I think last question I have, maybe two more, we'll see. We got 3 minutes and 21 seconds. How are you continuously measuring impact to be able to quantify why we should keep these programs going, maybe outside from a cost savings perspective?
The way that we are quantifying is actually by a reduction in complaints. So, for example, our neighborhood in Biscayne Park, we have very spotty cell service with our existing carrier. So the fact that I'm not answering 20 emails every week about our staff that can't communicate on their existing cell phone, that's a measurable effect.
Well, connection, and ours is pretty much connections that we can control. Connections and so when I say control is that, we've given the family what they need. Even if nobody else has a phone in that house, we know that we've given a phone to that house. And the impact that it makes is tremendous when you're talking about it, once again, attendance, all the things that go along with what we want our kids to focus on.
So special. And I think I'm going to actually save my last question and end it on that, because again, we really touched on the human side of what we're really doing here, and growing attendance. Like, oh my God, like the fact that we're able to actually be a part of that is very special, and that in itself is probably more important than any other question that I would possibly have. And so on that note, I, number one, just want to thank the Helium team for having myself up here and putting on this incredible event. This is really wonderful. I didn't know what I was getting into when I walked in here. And want to thank you all for listening in. I hope that this was really informative. Everyone was able to learn maybe one or two things. And to the panelists, thank you so much for taking the time for being here today. Genuinely appreciate it. I learned a lot, and it's really nice to have you both in my own personal network right now. Thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.